30 miles north of the Bay Area in southern Sonoma Mountains is where you'll find us tonight, as a primarily Pacific Northwest series takes to a facility in that region. Welcome race fans to Pit Stop TV. As usual, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter tonight. Eric Brennan joins me in the booth, Trey Shuttlesworth is on social media coverage, and I'm Emerson Arden. And this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the Northwest GT3 Challenge from the Sonoma Raceway. We join you tonight from the virtual Sonoma, California for round 8 of 10 this season. After Riverside International Raceway closed in 1988, the multi-purpose racing facility has hosted NASCAR since 1989, and it is slated to host one of the 6 NASCAR Cup Series road course point races in 2021. Sonoma Raceway has also played host to IndyCar and the NHRA. Tonight, however, we have the viewing pleasure of GT3 cars navigating their way through 160 feet of elevation change around one of America's most prominent road racing circuits. That being said, Eric, let's go through our point standings heading into today, following Trevor Anderson's dominating win, propelling him closer to the top of the points table.
Thanks a lot, Everson. Really happy to be here tonight. 3 races left to go in the season, so this picture that you see on your screen is going to play a big role in how the rest of these races unfold here on the platform. And as you see, Garrett D'alessandro is currently on top of the championship points, courtesy of 2 wins. However, Emerson, we were talking before we came on air. Those 2 wins came relatively early in the season, and this season seems to be having a little bit of ebb and flow to it a little bit. And who gets hot when may play a huge role, I should say, in who ends up with the season-long championship, as James Hansen has a win under his belt already, 37 points out in second. Gavin Cohn, the highest driver in the standings, not with a win under his belt thus far in this season. And also you see Trevor Anderson, as you mentioned, fresh off his win 1 week ago, climbing 1 spot in 4th. And Chris Brunnemer has been very quick here in Sonoma throughout the practice session, rounding out your top 5. He's got 3 wins in total, looking for a 4th, and those are the only 4 drivers that have captured a win this season. You see James Allen, who struggled his last time out, back to 6th. You also have Justin McKayla in the 7th spot in the standings. John Wittendorf, who is currently running well up towards the top of the running order in qualifying, 8th. Brady Lubnow in the 9th spot. Mikkel Rutterbusch takes you through your top 10 in championship points. As we're ready to go for round 8 of 10, and I think you said it all in your intro there, Emerson. This track is known for a lot of motorsports disciplines. It's a favorite amongst those who travel in touring car series and compete at Sonoma Raceway. And I think tonight we're going to be privy to some incredibly intense racing on a track which oftentimes is very tough to pass. But I think these drivers are going to put it all together. And right on cue, as you're also working the production buttons back there, doing a great job multitasking for us tonight, Emerson, you see the type of layout in which we're going to run. In the sim, they call it the Cup Historic, although in 2019, this year's Cup race got, of course, nixed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but in 2019, they brought this configuration back for the most part. One minor change, you'll see the approach to turn 7. They're going to be sliding off a little bit to drivers left. It'll be a combined venture through 7 and 7A. But Emerson, I don't know about you, I only see 2, maybe 3 solid opportunities to pass on what is a beautiful but tricky race layout.
Oh, for sure. That being said, these drivers are going to be very aggressive on overtakes, like you said. I think the only prominent passing opportunities would be into turn 7 and a hairpin down at turn 11. You can maybe try to make something work after you get through the top of the hill in 3A. You come down to 4. That can be a passing opportunity if you play your cards right. But with sports cars for an hour, you know, your goal is to stay on track, even though it's a sprint race. We'll see how aggressive you take turn 4, because that is a deceiving corner. You think you can get in there deep, and you can, but if you go off, you're gonna miss the entire exit. Turn 5 is gonna be a wash, and then you're trying to fight for grip as you come through turn 6. You see off after turn 7, you go through the S section, known to really get some curb hopping going to get these cars to turn, or at least stock cars to turn. These GT3 cars, most likely they're gonna stay off these curbs, in hopes of just trying to ride right next to the curbs. The innermost tire gonna be right next to those curves, maybe touching it, kissing it a little bit, but they don't want to be riding those curves through 8A, 9, and 10.
Yeah, and then of course it all comes down to the best passing zone on the racetrack, a fan favorite. In fact, that's one of the most popular areas where there's some grandstand seating to the offside of the pit entryway there on driver's left, and that is the hairpin, the right-hander, the final corner, where if you are in contention or position to perhaps make up a spot in the late stages, you just have to outbrake your opponent. Hopefully you both survive the turn, and that's a lap around the Sonoma Raceway layout configuration we'll be utilizing here tonight for what is, again, the 8th race of 10 on the season with 3 races left to go. A lot to still be decided, and judging by the qualifying session that has been on track, that we're just about halfway through, the field is relatively tight, and there's been a lot of shuffling around taking place so far throughout this session. In fact, we'll pull up the running order there, and as you can see, the driver who came in atop the championship points, we mentioned, started off this year rather strong. D'Alessandro is currently the quickest by 0.3 of a second over Wittendorf, who was second fastest, but still about 7 3/4 minutes to go.
For sure, Garrett D'Alessandro trying to get back on track. He started off the year so strong, and I say he skidded relatively because he's still been very, very strong, of course, to keep his point lead. He's been running top 5 most races, but he's not been able to claim the top spot since round 2 of the season. And then Chris Brunnemer had his own little streak before he kind of got that streak broken by Trevor Anderson last week at Silverstone. So a couple drivers who streaked earlier in the season trying to regain some traction. D'Alessandro and Brunnemer first and third. They're always fast. Can they get the job done? How about Wittendorf? He has yet to get a win this season, but he is always blazing fast. Can he put 60 minutes together around the beautiful and very, very tricky Sonoma Raceway? Look at the shot right there on your screen. Look at the elevation change. You see the bottom of the hill there, turn 1. They go up the hill, very, very steep climb to turn 2, and then they just kind of ride a little bit of elevation change through 3, 3A, and 4. And then it's back down a hill, back up the hill for the carousel, and then it gets flattened out. And then we start the elevation change again after we come through the hairpin. Look at that beautiful, beautiful shot here as we are in the southern Sonoma Mountains here in Sonoma, California.
And with this series being centralized, of course, dubbed the Northwest GT3 Challenge, it's only fitting that this is one of the stops that the series would like to make. In fact, I think that if you were to talk to any of the people involved in motorsports, regardless of whether they're based in the Carolina industry with NASCAR, up in Indianapolis with some of the IndyCar series, you mentioned the NHRA also utilizes the drag strip. As we take a look at James Hansen on a qualifying lap, everybody seems to love to head out to Sonoma Valley and wine country, even though it may be a 5 or 6+ hour flight, depending on where they're coming from in the States. And you can see why, even in a digital sense, as Garrett D'Alessandro goes even quicker the last time through, now extending the margin at the top of the scoring pylon by half a second. We mentioned Wittendorf in the runner-up position, and Brunnemer currently in 3rd. Was watching Brunnemer in the practice session earlier today, and it looked as though he was literally trying to find the absolute limit on some of the most toughest parts of this track. Emerson, you cited turn 4 as being a key point. That was one of the places where I saw Brunnemer run a little bit wide. Also, we saw a number of drivers struggle at that section of the racetrack. This qualifying session, 20 minutes in length. We're going to be showing you the final 5 minutes in full. And it's an opportunity for maybe you to low down 2 laps, as we've been averaging about just under 1:30 per quick time. And if you get off course, you're pretty much going to have to reset and do it all over again. And hopefully you'll have enough time to get a lap in here, as we are now under 5 minutes remaining.
So yeah, definitely the best thing about group qualifying, at least open qualifying time session, is when you start a lap before time's expired, you get to finish that lap, as long as you set it within a reasonable amount of time to iRacing. iRacing gives you plenty of time to do that at a race or qualifying pace. With 4.5 minutes left, you're able to get a 3rd and maybe a 4th if you're able to squeak by the start-finish line if you're just starting one now, if you got the fuel. I know a lot of these drivers could be on low fuel to try to maximize their advantage with lower weight in these cars, to really fly around some of these tighter corners and fly down these straightaways. Well, there's not many, but there's a couple out there. And using that low fuel would be a great advantage, but it limits you on how many attempts you can get in on that set before resetting back to the pit lane.
Yeah, I had an opportunity there to see some of these drivers making the run up the hill to turn 1 underneath Toyota Bridge. Now trying to take a look at some of the cars that remain out on track, trying to better their respective lap time, as right now Garrett D'Alessandro is kind of in a league of his own. But this driver, John Wittendorf, you see him currently second, but a half second off the lap time that was set by D'Alessandro. In fact, as of right now, D'Alessandro is the only driver to get down to the 1 minute 28 second bracket pretty much on this race weekend. Did not see any driver, D'Alessandro included, get down that low on the stopwatch. He actually improved about a half second on his lap time from practice. He wasn't the quickest car in the practice session. In fact, Wittendorf was even faster. Brunnemer, though, held the title as the driver who laid down the quick time in the pre-qualifying practice session. So I think we expected the lap times to be a little bit tighter at this point in qualifying. But right now, D'Alessandro in a league of his own. Wittendorf still trying to lay down some solid lap times, and he's got another vehicle in his tire tracks trying to do the same as they approach turn 10, where they get on the brakes. You see the brake lights illuminate as they come through the right-hander before they stop on the brake pedal here at the hairpin at turn 11, clipping a couple of the cones there at pit entry. We'll see how this lap fares.
I'm going to take a look at our defending race winner, I guess, if you would say, on the season. Trevor Anderson right now 12th on the board. Not where he wanted to run after a dominating performance last week to kind of help himself more in the standings with 3 races left. The championship looking not so attainable at this point, and 12th place on the starting grid doesn't help those chances as much, but that is about midfield, and it's an hour race. Things can happen. If you keep the car on track, you can really climb your way forward, and that goes for anybody in this 25 or 26 car field whenever we get going. Of now under 2 minutes remaining in qualifying.
And you see a little bit of traffic momentarily that was up ahead of last week's winner in Trevor Anderson. Not sure if that car remains in position. We'll actually see the opportunity of that shot here as they come off turn 6, and that could prove to be challenging as you're trying to lay down one of these lap times. You don't want to be impeded by another car who may be struggling or even make a mistake, as the opportunities to improve on the stopwatch is starting to grow slim. D'Alessandro still with the half-second advantage over the rest of the field. We're on board now with Anderson through the S's, which Emerson was highlighting to be a key point. And he mentioned, contrary to the big heavy stock cars, these drivers may not want to attack the curbs like you would typically see one of the NASCAR machines do here, and you can see why. Trying to hold a steady wheel as he slams on the brake pedal here through turn 11. And Anderson, as we mentioned, was back down in 12th position in what may be now his final attempt to lay down a flyer. He's going to hit the line here with about 54 seconds to go. This lap, though, for Anderson doesn't appear to be enough to pick him up into the top 10, and this may be his last chance to move up to a more higher up starting position here as he gets real loose on the exit of turn 2 up the hill, and he appears to have his hands full at this point in qualifying.
Yeah, Anderson's going to really be toughing it out here. Can D'Alessandro hold on through the final 30 seconds? I guess he really doesn't have a choice. He sets the time he can. He comes across the line. What is this time going to be? Actually, I think this is a warm-up lap that he's starting his final time lap in case he gets beat in these final 17 seconds of open qualifying. Let's see how John Wittendorf is doing. He's actually also coming through one, and he is going to call it a session. Wittendorf will not contend for the pole with 2, 1, and now everybody who's on a lap, everybody who started a lap, now they only get to finish a lap, and that is it. So can Chris Brunnemer leap up 6/10 and try to contend for the pole that D'Alessandro has? Also, Wittendorf, he closed the margin. It was about half a second, and Brunnemer aborts his lap. He will stay at the best third for Brunnemer. Here comes Ruderbusch in that number 22 silver Audi machine, working its way through 10 down to the hairpin turn 11. So I'm talking about those curves. You saw it back when we were on board with Trevor Anderson, and the curves are very, very tough on the car. In real life, it would damage the floorboard, and that would really hurt any chances of you competing. And Ruderbusch, after his lap, he just decides to spin it out. Of course, these drivers are able to reset their cars for the race. Ruderbusch stays 4th, but got closer to Brunnemer. And now we look at Brady Lubenow, who's currently 6th in his Ferrari, working his way through 7 and 7A, and now on the way down to the S section. So actually, let's ride on board with with Lubenow right now. Let's see if he hits a curb like the way I'm talking about here. He's going to actually really get all over that curb, but it's going to send him wide on exit, and that's what I'm talking about. These cars are more sensitive to hitting curbs, I'm sorry, and it'll be a struggle. They can keep the car on track, and if they hit it right, they could get faster, but the likelihood of you going wide and really throwing the car into all that dried up grass on the exit of these corners is too big of a deal, I think, to really chance it with the curbs.
Yeah, that's a very narrow form of the racetrack there in the S's. If you get a wheel off either on the left or right side and are unable to save it, there's a tire barrier on each side waiting to greet you. So one of the reasons why you have to be very methodical in terms of touching any of that curbing. But looks as though the number of competitors on track to try to close out this session for the last 10 minutes of overage they're offered up has dwindled down to 0. And I think we can make it official, Emerson, by a pretty large margin, over 0.3 of a second. We've got ourselves the pole sitter, and it's Garrett D'alessandro with the quick time.
Yeah, D'alessandro now is going to be looking to come back. Can he snag another win and pretty much secure a championship in the coming 60 minutes? I don't know if it would be clinched. It'd have to be looking at the championship scenarios heading into next week's race, but it'll look very, very tough for anybody to challenge him if he wins today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming in with the momentum on his side, but as we mentioned, his best runs appeared to happen at the early portion of the season, so maybe trying to light the fuse to start another hot streak, and we'll see if D'alessandro is going to be able to put it all together here to grab what could be his 3rd win of the season. That would tie him for the most in this round of action for the Northwest GT3 Challenge, and we will now have a chance to take a look at the starting lineup as the field comes into formation on the front straightaway for this, the 8th race of 10 on the season, and Garrett D'alessandro by over 0.3 of a second on pole, with John Wittendorf going to start on the outside in car 24. As the rest of the field populates on the front straightaway, we'll take a look at row 2. Chris Brunnemer, who was also top 5 in the practice and qualifying session, going to start 3rd in car 2. The 22 to the outside, and Mikkel Roderbusch, who's going to start in the 4th position in car 22. Inside of row 3 and 5th spot in car 1 is going to be that of James Hansen, also top 5 throughout most of the sessions. And Brady Lubenow in car 11 starts outside of row 3 in 6th spot. To take you back to 7th position, you'll find the car of Michael Darling in car number 7. Starting position matching the car number there inside of row 4. Outside car 31 of Sarah Rabb in 8th. Will be leading up the outside of that 4th row. And rounding out your top 10 in car number 93 is Ben Hartman in 9th spot. And rounding out your top 10, Jackson Lowry in car 78.
We fall back to row number 6 now as the iRacing.com Porsche safety car pulls off the grid. We begin our formation lap around the Sonoma Raceway. Row number 6 will have the number 80 of John McClintock, and to his outside, the number 211, the defending race winner Trevor Anderson will start P12. We fall back to row number 7, and we'll have the number 12 of Alan Roth. Alan Roth Nation rise up. He starts 13. Can he get another top 10 today? And to his outside, we'll have the number 6, a Torn Longacre. Fall back to row number 8, and we'll find Gavin Cohn and Christopher Raftis. Row number 9, we'll find James Allen. Not a particularly good qualifying, but we'll see if he can make up his way from the 17th position. Alongside of him will be Mick Blue, coming off a season best finish last week at Silverstone. We now head on to row number 10, where we will find Justin Michaela and Tom Afey.
Rest of the field is going to see in the 21st spot, Randall Ayers in car 83 outside, Jason Frisk in car number 89 and 22nd. 23rd is going to be that of Bern Osterhag in the 113 car, and also outside the 612 of Josh Juberek, I should say. And rounding out our field, as we have 26 cars coming down for green, is going to be that of Michael Delasawa and Joey Atterbury riding shotgun on the field in 26th spot in car number 61. So Emerson, looks as though we have gotten a halfway into this parade and pace lap. The race scheduled to go for 60 minutes. It'll be a rolling start, and it looks as though that is going to be the quick time setter in qualifying, Garrett D'alessandro, trying to catch a little bit of lightning in a bottle in the most important time of the season with 3 races to go, counting this one, in what could be a championship-winning drive and effort if he can remain P1 at the conclusion of this 60-minute race. He's got Whitendorf up alongside, getting set for the green flag.
So the field of 26 GT3 cars comprised of Audis, Ferraris, and BMWs. 26 of them come through turn number 10. We'll head down to the hairpin. The iRacing.com Porsche safety car will pull into the safety of pit lane, and we come at a drudgingly 40 miles per hour around the hairpin. D'Alessandro on the left-hand side of your screen is going to lead us to the green here at Sonoma.
D'Alessandro with a great jump from the pole, able to lead the field up the hill for the first time. Single file for the most part throughout the top 5 contenders. Bit of a mistake there by Whitendorf as he came wide in turn 2. That's going to allow Brunnemer an opportunity to look low, and he's got the pass made as they hit the left-hander at turn 3 in 3A. And here comes that tricky spot on the racetrack. The hard right-hander at turn 4 that will cut them down towards the old part of the Cup Series track. And the field will now come down the hill with Brunnemer up to second, Whitendorf back to third, and D'Alessandro already up to a lead in excess of 1 second.
That just sounds like something Garrett D'Alessandro is gonna do most weeks. But this infield section here, I guess this Cup historic layout, this the carousel is really gonna illustrate the elevation change. And now we head to probably the flat part of the circuit from pretty much turn 7 through all the way past the start finish to turn 1. It's all about the same elevation. It's really those set of 4 or 5 corners that really illustrate the beauty and the elevation of the Sonoma Mountains here. But right now, working through the S's, there's a little bit of elevation change, but not near as drastic as what goes on the top part of the course. Baruderbusch trying to open up a gap to James Hansen as we come to complete lap number 1. As we have to actually go through the hairpin and then turn 12 before we complete lap 1. But there's Garrett D'Alessandro, 9/10 of a second, according to live scoring, as we cross the start-finish line for the first time today. And yeah, we begin via the trudge that is a single-file race at Sonoma, and it's going to be very strategically packed. And the aggression is going to come up in the midfield when it comes to overtaking. As soon as these drivers feel that these tires are up to temp, they're going to be sending it, especially into turn 7 and turn 11. But watch out for turn 4 as well.
Yeah, turn 4 has been a spot in which could open up an opportunity to make up some ground, but you got to be close enough to get the job done. Meanwhile, Whitendorf, who lost second place as they came up the hill, had it cleared. He actually nestled himself between D'Alessandro and Whitendorf in the runner-up spot, and it looked as though he misjudged his braking point through the right-hander. It cost him the runner-up position. You see him looking out ahead now to that of Brunnemer in that white and gray car just ahead as they come through turn 7 and 7A. And now through the S's, and this will give you a good opportunity to see just how much curbing he may be using as he tries to close up the gap. You saw Brunnemer there really attacking the curbs on the left side, and now they'll head up to turn number 10, which this could be a disaster zone on the racetrack as well. If you misjudge hitting the curb on the left side or run a little bit wide here on driver's left, you see how close that retaining wall comes back up towards the surface of the racetrack. That could end your night. And right now it looks as though Whitendorf was just a little bit quicker, but I think he caught the wall there, Emerson, as he came off the hairpin.
I believe he did. Coming through turn 11, he was trying to get all he can as Garrett D'Alessandro sets the fastest lap of the field as we finish lap number 2 for these guys. But yeah, I think so. What you saw there in the hairpin is D'Alessandro was cutting turn 11. You're allowed to do that via iRacing standards, and at least the NASCAR Cup Series, when they come here, they do that as well. These drivers are allowed to cut all the way to these sets of tires there to the inside. You know, you're not able to cut anymore. You'll destroy the car. But you're able to cut up to there. And I think Whitendorf was using as much of that extra runoff, as much as that runoff he could use to gain time on Brunnemer. And he just got very tight on exit. What it does is it gives you a shallow exit, and you really have to be turning the car hard to the right to really have any chance.
Yeah, I was very surprised that in practice and qualifying, we saw drivers on that approach to the hairpin coming out so wide to driver's left, almost flirting with the pit wall attenuator, clipping some of the cones en route to their approach to the right-handed corner. And it looks as though that's indeed what they're doing. You hit the nail on the head. It's so how they approach that final few corners. We're going to drop back here to Michael Dowling, who runs in the 10th position at the moment. He's lost 3 spots since the drop of the green flag. He's trying to chase down fellow BMW racer, currently up just ahead of him in Sven Hartman, who makes the mistake in the hairpin, and that is going to allow Dowling to make the pass, or is he? Hartman has the preferred line as they come through the kink to the start-finish line, but wisely backs out of it. That's not one of the areas of the Sonoma Raceway where you want to run side by side, and that's going to move Sven Hartman back to 10th. It'll give Dowling a position, and here comes another car up behind him. This is probably the best race we've got going on track right now. That is Gavin Cohn. Remember, he told you coming into tonight's races, he was the highest running driver in the championship points, yet to visit victory lane. He's got a lot of work to do, but a long way to go. He's trying to crack the top 10, and he's in this line of BMWs as they come down towards the carousel, and he is 1 spot shy of getting up in a 10th spot if he can get around Hartman.
So for the NASCAR fans who may be watching, what happened to Sven Hartman there is I think he downshifted a little too quickly, and the car moved under braking through the center of the corner, and we call that a wheel hop in racing terms, and that looked very similar to what Denny Hamlin did when he was in position to win on the final lap here at Sonoma in 2016. Tony Stewart obviously passed him there and took the win. That was Tony Stewart's last win in his NASCAR Cup Series career. And yeah, you also noticed there when we were watching that battle that Mikael Ruderbusch in the 4th position in his Audi, he went purple last time round. After D'Alessandro went faster on lap 3, Mikael Ruderbusch behind him went even faster. So Ruderbusch, maybe with some strategy, can squeak out a victory here. He also has yet to take a win this season, but we know Ruderbusch has the pace, and he's also shown the aggression that he really wants to move up through this field. He wants to get up there and contend for a win. What is it going to take for Ruderbusch to really get up there?
Ruderbusch, one of the Audis in the field, now with a little bit of clear track ahead of him. He's about 1 second behind Wittendorf, who started outside pole, and he appears to be closing the gap a little bit here in the 4th position. You see up ahead of there is Wittendorf, and Brunnemer has been able to stabilize the advantage that D'Alessandro was able to build up at the head of the pack to about 1 second. He's not letting him drive off into the sunset, although a big mistake there by Brunnemer as he gets the right side tires off into the dirt after using all the available runoff curbing at his disposal as he came through the carousel. But it looks as though that gap may be closing just a little bit, although D'Alessandro gets a great launch off turn 7A and is starting to open it back up here through the S's, now at a tune of about 1.3 seconds. But a long way to go. You mentioned strategy could come into play. When do you elect to push your hardest? When do you try to make your maneuvers and lay down your fast lap times? That is going to play a role. As you see, our leader there, D'Alessandro, clipping some of the cones there, trying to perfect his entry to the hairpin. So far, though, he is starting to extend the margin. At the head of the pack, it's going to be about 1.5 seconds or more as he clips the line here to put another lap on the board.
So you mentioned strategy, and I think it's important to mention almost every race we do mention this. But with strategy in these races, these drivers are limited to 65% fuel load, so they are forced to make a pit stop. When they make that pit stop is another question, but when they do, they're on endurance race tires. They are not going to change tires because the amount of time you lose changing tires is not going to be the amount of time you gain with those fresh tires, especially with 65% fuel load. It's about 65% of an hour you can go on a fuel tank, which leaves about 20 or so minutes left on the clock for you to really have any shot at it. So you only have 20 minutes by the time you run it dry in. Somebody's slow there. That's the 78 of Jackson Lowry dropping down the running order. He gets back going. Anderson has to go wide, but Lowry now powers back, almost contact with the BMW there of Gavin Cohn. Cohn will fend him off in the braking zone and clear. This is a battle for 10th, and I think Lowry, you see, he was 8th last time by the start-finish line, so something amiss for Lowry. Let's see if we can get a replay going for Jackson Lowry, and oh, he went off. Oh, and he clipped the tire barrier. He almost came back right in front of Gavin Cohn and Sven Hartman.
Boy, that could have been absolutely disastrous. That was coming down the hill towards the carousel, and you see all 4 tires off here, and yeah, he pancaked the tire barrier right at the end of where that wall comes to a close before they set up for the left-hander, and a great job by a number of very fast cars. This line of BMWs was on the scene there to try to take advantage of the mistake, and we're going to have a chance here to go on board and see exactly what happened. This is coming from turn 4. You see the quick right-hander that sets up here at 5, and oh, he just caught, looks like he caught a lot of the dirt there with the right side tires, and that was all it took. And unfortunately, that wall starts to jet back out towards traffic. That's a preventative to stop a car from being able to go through the corner, literally, to shortcut across the corner and perhaps T-bone another car. He pancaked it rather flush. Doesn't appear to be too much damage, but you see there that big bobble and 4-wheel slide. Got on the brakes at just the right time, but heads-up driving by the group behind him, Sven Hartman specifically. He left him more than enough room to catch that car, and it will allow both those drivers to live to fight another day.
Yeah, huge heads-up racing. I mean, it's racing, so anything can happen, but you don't really expect something like that to happen in sports car racing. You kind of expect at this point everybody's single file, everybody's kind of minding their own, planning out their strategy, or they're in their little couplet battles, or maybe 3-car battles for the most part. In most sprint races, you're not worried about a car going off and coming right back on in front of you. Especially with these drivers, they know each other. They don't expect that, but of course Lowry had no control of his car. He just kind of followed where the momentum was taking him. But again, just great heads-up racing, as you said, from Sven Hartman and Gavin Cohn. And great car control from Jackson Lowry. For what it's worth, he did not come back all the way across the track. He just slowed it down as much as he could and kept going, stayed to the inside of the carousel, of course, and got back going, and he's still in the 12th position. He lost about 4 spots, but for pancaking the wall and him staying out, he says the damage, well, we assume that he's saying the damage isn't significant enough for him to come in and pit now. Speaking of pitting, back to the conversation, these drivers are not going to take tires because the advantage of fresh tires is not going to outweigh the disadvantage of the time it takes to take 4 tires. So what they're going to do is they're going to take fuel, but you know, when do you take that fuel? Usually, you know, you think if it's a forced pit stop in an hour-long race, you take it at halfway. Most drivers have been going even longer than that and running it dry to 25, 22 minutes, even 20 minutes if they can save it. So then it comes, where are you going to come on pit exit? Do you try to short pit the driver ahead of you right now, where Brunnemer has closed the gap down to 6/10 on Garrett D'alessandro back up front? If Brunnemer can't get past D'alessandro before pit stops, before 25 minutes, does he try to come in maybe the lap before D'alessandro if he knows he's going to come out in clean air and maybe try to leapfrog him that way? I know the tires won't be as much of an advantage, but it comes down to where you come off of pit lane. If you come out in clean air and D'alessandro comes out in traffic, that is huge, and that is probably going to be the race right there.
Yeah, the art of the undercut, something in which is very hard to estimate. It's almost like you're taking a facet of playing Texas Hold'em and mixing it into your racecraft, because you don't want your competition to know exactly when you plan on hitting the pit lane, and you don't want to give them too much time to be able to react and either follow suit or do something else that may be able to benefit them in the long run. And something else that just crossed my mind, Emerson, back when we were covering the Operation E-Motorsport competition, I remember a race specifically where a driver came in with the partial fuel load to start the race, as you see Brunnemer close up here for the lead on D'alessandro, and he accidentally went to elect to take a full fuel load on the pit stop. He didn't reset it and scale it back for whatever was left in the race. So something else these drivers got to be mindful of as they prepare for whatever time they elect to hit the pit lane is you don't want to put too much fuel in it that you don't need to take it all the way to the end, because that may cost you precious time on the pit lane. But nevertheless, you don't want to short fill it too much that you end up coming up a little bit short when it comes time for checkers.
Yeah, I think in that same Operation E-Motorsports broadcast, we had a driver who was contending for the win, short fuel, and run out in the final sector of the race where they had a shot at the victory. So it really is an art form. It's a full math problem the entire race, because if you don't have a crew chief in this session or a spotter to do this for you, you're doing this yourself, and you're thinking, how much fuel do I have to take? Do I be safe and not short pit, but risk coming out in traffic? Or do you try to short pit, maybe get out to some clean air, maybe try to save that now disadvantage of fuel. It really is an art form. It's math, and I think that's what makes racing so great, even if it's not always, overtakes upon overtakes, even though Brunnemer's trying to change that right now as he continues his closing in onto the gearbox of the number 13 Audi and the number 2 Ferrari of Chris Brunnemer. Now they'll go nose to tail in the S's, and Brunnemer is studying D'Alessandro. He is studying where he's better than him and where Brunnemer is better than D'Alessandro. And I think Brunnemer is really going to take advantage of those. Obviously, you got to take advantage of your strengths in any scenario, really. But Brunnemer is really evaluating where he can gain the time, and if he's not as good as D'Alessandro, how can he correct what he's doing? And of course, it's also going to be different because they're in different cars, and that's the beauty of multi-car racing. Is if you're in an Audi and a Ferrari, which we've been debating all season. The Audis, they're more boxy, they're more streamlined, they're better, with the speed, and the engine is, towards the middle. Meanwhile, the Ferrari, I think it's considered more of a mid-engine car, but it's more towards the rear in a Ferrari, and they're more for cornering, and it's the advantages and disadvantages of these cars. All seen, of course, the setups will negate some of the disadvantages, that each car has, but nonetheless, these cars are better suited. I think the Ferraris are honestly more suited for this racetrack. I think that speaks volumes to the talent D'Alessandro has. But we talk about the difference in cars all season long. Last week we talked about the BMW, which we really didn't talk about, but Trevor Anderson dominated his BMW. Most weeks we're talking about Audi versus Ferrari. Last week was BMW versus Ferrari. Now we're back to Audi versus Ferrari. But I think the advantages and disadvantages are going to be displayed over the course of the next 43 3/4 of a minute.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the likes of Trevor Anderson, one of the BMWs. Actually, the bottom portion of the top 10 is a string of BMW competitors trying to work their way up towards the front. And I just want to go back momentarily as we watch the battle for lead. Actually, we'll take a look here. This is looks as though that's Gavin Cohn, who we are looking at. Actually, that's Sven Hartmann. Cohn is the car just behind him. But this is a stretch of 4 BMWs in total, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, respectively. 11th is the aforementioned Trevor Anderson, the winner from last time out. And actually, he is trying to get around Gavin Cohn, who was just ahead of him. For a battle for position, but you see all 4 of those BMWs running in close proximity with one another, kind of proving how the parity fares for them as far as their place in this class. We move back up now to the lead with D'Alessandro and Brunnemer tightening things up. The lead at one point was a second and a half. D'Alessandro, though, has got company. It's now down to a car length, less than that as they come off the carousel, and this appears to be the point of the racetrack where Brunnemer is much quicker, and you see D'Alessandro run wide. He immediately darts over to driver's left to prepare for the entry to the right-hander at turn 7, but this is the most pressure that D'Alessandro, who won pole by more than 0.3 of a second, has been under since the drop of the green, and Wittendorf is trying to come back as well in third.
2 drivers who streaked earlier this season looking for some momentum to close out this season. Brunnemer wanting to desperately get back into the championship battle. D'Alessandro wanting to close things out as we narrow out the rest of the season. This week we're at Sonoma. Next week we're at the Nürburgring Grand Prix course, which is very, very similar to Sonoma if you think about it. The layouts are very similar. The elevation change at Nürburgring here at Sonoma, it's a little less drastic at the Nürburgring, but very, very similar courses here. So this battle that we're seeing this week can easily translate to next week, depending on, of course, how the drivers practice and all that. But assuming that they practice the same amount and they prepare for each event the same amount, this battle not only can carry throughout the next 41.5 minutes, can carry on into the next race with D'Alessandro on heavy defense against Chris Brunnemer. And we've seen this earlier in the season when D'Alessandro won his 2 races. He played great defense. Actually, I believe one of the 2 races he dominated and had a large margin. But the second race, he had to chase down, I think it was Brunnemer or it was Rudebush. He had to chase down somebody to win that race. and then he had to play great defense, but side by side out to the outside looks Brunnemer trying to get the crossover through 7A and out through the S's. D'Alessandro trying to fend off the hard-charging Chris Brunnemer. Brunnemer feels he is better. I think the Ferrari's better at this circuit. D'Alessandro is just absolutely flying around here. And now we worked our way through turn 10. Can Brunnemer set up D'Alessandro for a lunge into the hairpin? 40 minutes left. How aggressive is Brunnemer going to be?
And it looks as though Brunnemer's best point of the racetrack is the middle sector through the carousels, where he's gotten the best launch and challenge for the lead. And D'Alessandro's not having any of it. You mentioned his defensive driving tactics. He's putting those on to perfection as we jump now virtually inside the cockpit of Brunnemer up the hill to turn 2, where he is applying heavy pressure. Keep in mind, these two drivers, as we hit the 1/3 mark of this race, are just one mistake away from taking away both of their chances at victory, and they're both pushing to the limits as they hit 4 with the back end real squirrely on both cars. This is where they come through 5, and Brunnemer's been so superior the last couple of laps through here. Can he set up the drive to try to take the lead away? He sets up high, and it looks as though he's got to check up a little bit on corner exit, and it's going to be D'Alessandro with the launch off the corner, but he runs off the corner there again. Got a couple tires in the dirt as he did a few laps ago, and Brunnemer's going to look outside, side by side for the lead.
D'Alessandro to the right side by side through the S's. Now Brunnemer's got the preferred line. D'Alessandro fights back. They're still side by side, but Brunnemer will clear to the race lead through 8A. And now down the hill through turn 9. Brunnemer, can he fend off D'Alessandro now as we head into the portion of the track where Brunnemer is not as hot as D'Alessandro? How aggressive is D'Alessandro going to be to get back into clean air? He looks now to driver's left on the right side of your screen, but they go single file through turn 11, and Brunnemer, now his goal. How much faster was he than D'Alessandro? Is he going to tiptoe away from D'Alessandro as he head into this first and second sector of the course as we come through turn 1 now? Can Brunnemer open up that gap, or is D'Alessandro and Brunnemer matched for pace? We're about to find out. But also, don't forget about John Wittendorf, who I believe he was second. He should have slotted into second off the start. He's back here in third. He's been watching this battle. And again, as Eric said, and Brunnemer goes wide. Heading into turn 4, he's going to go wide. Through 4, can he hold on to it? D'Alessandro's back. And now they get through turn 5. It's not over yet. Brunnemer now under heavy attack, heavy pressure. And he was feeling it there, coming through 3A and 4. But now into the carousel, D'Alessandro tries to fight back. Can he keep the car on this side of the curbing? He does. Can he slipstream down to turn 7? I don't think he's going to have any chance, but now Wittendorf is now in position to make it a 3-car battle. It's 2 Ferraris and an Audi going at it, and don't forget about Ruderbusch. This can make it a 2 Audi, 2 Ferrari fight. 37 minutes remaining.
And don't look now, but there is some lap traffic ahead of the leaders as they come through the S's. Looks as though John McClintock is up ahead, as well as Michael Delasala. And now we're on board with Brunnemer, and you can see the lap traffic and a mistake there by Delasala. He runs wide and almost caught the wall in 10. He's going to duck to the pit lane. And you see some damage to the rear wing here of the car just ahead of Brunnemer, the leader. We'll see if he's able to pull wide. Again, that was John McClintock, who is going to yield to the leaders, hopefully, as they approach turn 1. He does. A gentleman move there by John McClintock, and the top 3 will get through cleanly. Brunnemer, though, I'm sure his heart had to have stopped for a moment there when Delasala went off in turn number 10. That's a spot where if you catch the tire barrier, it could ricochet the car back out in front of traffic. Fortunately, he ducked right to the pit lane, and the leaders get by.
Yeah, that's not even that's the first time we talked about lap traffic today. That's not even something we was specifically mentioned, but that is huge. Lap traffic, of course, can pretty much decide a race, especially as you get into the later stages of it. This is a pretty short course for what it's worth. It's about 2.5 miles in length, and these drivers, especially the faster drivers, they're going to lap this course. They're going to catch up to lap traffic fairly quickly. Of course, we lapped up to 23rd position, and we're about, just give or take, 15 to 20 seconds away from lapping 22nd and company. And so lap traffic can decide this race before even strategy decides this race. And like you said, if Delasala was wasn't in control of his car there, that could have easily decided this race, this battle for the win, essentially. But D'alessandro, with the great car control, was able to hold on to the car in the dried grass. The drivers left there in turn 10, and all was well.
And I will admit, I did not expect this race to pan out this way, especially after how dominant D'alessandro was in qualifying. I thought that the field would have been stretched out a little bit more here, but if you take a look at the timing and scoring order, you go all the way back to the top 4, and it's just over 2 seconds back to Rudebusch, who holds the 4th spot. A little bit further behind, you got to drop back to Hansen, James Hansen that is, in car 1. He's 6 seconds back. So that makes a little more sense as far as the field getting strung out here just a little bit as far as the running order. But nevertheless, it looks as though that Hansen's got his hands full by Brady Lubenow, who is trying to get up into the top 5 here as this race starts to tighten up here again for the 5th position. We jump on board with Lubenow, who is trying to close up here through the left-handed carousel. But so far, as we are about 5 minutes shy of halfway in a 60-minute timed event, the top 3 staying within close proximity of one another. Top 4, in fact, not too far spread apart. And this battle for 5th is nose to tail.
I think that's the beauty of this track, as you saw Hansen get really wide there through 7A, but now we go through the S's now, and Lubenow really studying and following Hansen through these S's. He really doesn't have a choice in terms of following, but he is studying the line that Hansen's taking, going a little wide there at the center of turn 9, and now into 10, all over the curbing. There is James Hansen. So what's happening here is Lubenow sizing up Hansen, and I think this is more going to be a battle of taking it to the pit lane. I don't know if Lubenow is going to be very aggressive. Lubenow is more of a kind of waited out and see driver, I'd say, from the first 7 races this season, but he could take his chances. I think he understands the passing opportunities are few and far between here at Sonoma. And speaking of Sonoma, I think that's what I was trying to say before, was the raceability of this track. This track definitely offers a lot of driver input to really dictate how this race is going to go. And I mean, I think it was classic between Brunnemer and D'alessandro. Brunnemer was better in this middle section that we're in right now, as we're on board with Lubenow still. As we go up the hill to the carousel and through the carousel, this was Brunnemer's section to lose. But D'alessandro was very, very fast through the S's and the back part of this course, all the way back to the start-finish line. So Brunnemer really had to make his move here into turn 7 as Lubenow looks left now, side by side, the 2 Ferraris as they go through 7 and now 7A. Lubenow falls back behind Hansen, and we go once again single file through the S as Lubenow pressuring on James Hansen. I think that's actually really how Lubenow wants to get into it. He doesn't want to chance it, sending it into a corner and risk damaging his car, risk taking out Hansen. I think he just wants to pressure him, let Hansen know he's there, maybe get around him via mistake instead of risking damaging the Ferrari.
Well, we began our broadcast, Emerson. We penciled in turn 11, turn 4, and turn 7, probably in the highest order of potential passing zones. We've seen it, obviously, at turn 11. We've seen it at turn 7 for the lead. Turn 4 has been an opportunity where drivers could slip up and make a mistake and allow another competitor to get by. But I am blown away by how much of a role that turn 7 has become, especially considering this is the old Cup layout. If you're familiar with the IndyCar races that have taken place at Sonoma over the last few years before they ended up switching gears and going to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, they didn't have that transition to drivers left when you approach that sector of the racetrack. In fact, they have a pretty well straight on, hard 90-degree right-handed corner. It actually almost cycles out to about a full 180 degrees because it is so tight before they lead into the S's. Here it's a little bit more spacious for these full-body cars as we got a car sliding sideways right there in turn 4, right on cue. That's James Allen, who got on the binders a little bit too hard, was trying to pick up a spot there just outside the top 10, and James Allen is going to loop it around after he turned late laps in practice, came out here and qualifying a little bit earlier and qualified 15th. Actually, he started back in 17th spot. He's fallen back to 15th, but he was working his way further forward. And we'll go back and take a look at this. And Emerson, you mentioned wheel hop, and that kind of looks like what could have happened here as he got on the brakes.
Yeah, for sure. James Allen, he was really trying to get around Mick Blue here. This is the battle. This was a battle for the 13th position. Mick Blue holding on to that 13th spot as we continue. But back to this replay here. Allen was really trailing Mick Blue, trying to find a way around him, and he didn't want to try to pass him in turn 4 in any way, shape, or form. But he had to get on to the binders hard. I think Mick Blue braked a little earlier than he anticipated. He had to really get on him hard, lock it down, downshift to try to avoid running into the back of Mick Blue. Plus, it's also just a very tricky corner. If he wasn't reacting to Mick Blue, this is just a very deceiving corner in its own way. But James Allen continues on. We'll see where he's scored on his car as we cross the start-finish line. It's right now in 15th, so a loss of 1 spot to none other than Alan Roth. And I know Alan Roth has got his fan base in the chat. Alan Roth doing his work in the 14th position. And I know he qualified 1 spot higher. I believe actually it was once. Yeah, he started 13th. He's down to 14th. So Roth, his pace is stagnant, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Roth is consistent, and I think that's one of the best qualities about Alan Roth. He is consistent. He keeps the car on track, and he takes advantage of other people's mistakes, like James Allen. So Alan Roth here in the 14th position. Not as many people have gone off course, but Alan Roth doing his part and keeping that beautiful BMW on course. And that is really a beautiful livery as he works his way through the S's. We'll go ahead and take this moment to thank some of the Northwest GT3 sponsors. So I know we need to get them some thanks before pit stops underway, and actually I think pit stops are underway now, so we'll get to them afterwards. But Chris Brunnemer, the race leaders in pit road, he relinquishes the race lead to Garrett D'alessandro once again. And Brunnemer, let's see what the pit times are, and we'll compare him to himself and Garrett D'alessandro. It's going to be very important when we're talking about the lead battle later.
Yeah, we talked about the potential of the undercut, and Brunnemer, as the driver who's in command of this race, he decided that now is the time for him to come right at the halfway point. That's going to give D'alessandro the lead, but look at Wittendorf starting to close up here for his 2nd spot. We'll see if either one of these drivers elect to hit the pit lane next time by. D'alessandro, though, back to the point for the 2nd time today, 2nd lead change we've had in this race as we've eclipsed the halfway point. He really hit the curb that time on the exit of turn 7, coming down through the S's. You see we've had 2 lead changes here so far, and Wittendorf is trying to stay with D'alessandro, interested to see if these 2 cars will come down the pit lane in tandem. We'll see, though, when that time may come and how important it will be to hit the pit area. D'alessandro and Wittendorf going to stay out, so we are going to see these 2 differing strategies at least span the course of 2 laps, and what move may end up being the right move between when to come down pit lane. Were you better suited coming at the halfway point, or are these 2 going to try to stretch it as far as they can and have a relatively short stint towards the checkered flag?
I think that's you hitting the nail on the head right there. I think these drivers, I respect D'alessandro not overreacting to Brunnemer pitting and him sticking to the strategy he might have set in place way before we even started today's race, and that is running it dry. And then what that in turn does, if D'alessandro isn't losing time to Brunnemer here, even though he's under attack from Wittendorf, if he can keep the lap times the same, D'alessandro's going to have a shorter pit stop than Brunnemer had, which in turn time stopped in the pit lane is almost going to indirectly equal which car comes out in front. And that's another thing why I said pit times are going to be important. We'll look at Chris Brunnemer here as he's in the 13th position right now. He spent nearly 21 seconds stopped in the pit stall. D'alessandro is going to spend maybe half of that taking fuel to go 20 minutes. If D'alessandro can go that long, and Mick Blue's gone off, and he holds on to it, but Mick Blue dropping down a running order a little bit. Did Mick Blue do the same thing that just happened to James Allen a few seconds ago? Let's take a look at a replay. This is Mick Blue working his way through 3A, and he just goes off track. And he had to catch the car, but he went round in turn 4, and in very similar fashion went round in turn 4, and Alan Roth gets another spot from a car going round in turn 4. Move Alan Roth to P11. But Mick Blue, what this does is he falls back right there. You see on your screen, right behind James Allen. So now they're back together on the track. Both of them 1-1 for spins in turn 4. And James Allen looks like he has the upper hand in that battle.
And hats off to Mick Blue to take his foot off the brake there and let the car roll back into the dirt and not stay in the racing line, because here's the one topic of conversation we're going to open up in terms of talking about the leaders. Traffic. Brunnemer has buried himself back in, as you mentioned, 13th position. That was the last time through. He's now picked up a spot thanks to the spin by Mick Blue. In fact, he's picked up a few spots by virtue of other cars hitting the pit lane. But he's back around a couple of cars, which he hasn't seen all race long. Meanwhile, Garrett D'Alessandro, who is leading at the front of the pack, he was starting to encounter some lap traffic of his own, able to navigate his way through there. But being that Brunnemer has already come down and gotten his service, if he's able to catch some clear track while D'Alessandro is interacting with the tail end of the pack, that's really going to hurt his strategy, and Wittendorf as well, as they continue to run a few car lengths apart. So they want the track to remain clear out ahead of them in order for this long-form strategy, or the overcut strategy, to pay off. Once they start catching some of the lappers and they have to navigate their way around them, whether it be inside or outside, or maybe even on some of these portions of the racetrack where you simply can't pass, it's really going to play back into Chris Brunnemer's favor as the laps continue to tick off.
This all depends on how well they lap the course. Last lap, now I know, Brunnemer was, trying to avoid a spinning Mick Blue. But last lap, Garrett D'Alessandro ran a 130.8 to Chris Brunnemer's 130.9. This lap, Garrett D'Alessandro ran a 130.6. And now Brunnemer comes around. We'll wait for timing and scoring to update. But Chris Brunnemer, what does he set here? It is a 131.1. This is huge for D'Alessandro. He's going to spend less time stopped in the pit stall. And Brunnemer's losing time on the track.
Yeah, not sure of what may be wrong with Brunnemer's car, because he's got James Allen just behind him. That's the red card that you see just behind him.
There's some damage on that car.
Yeah, you're right there. Right on the right front, some major damage there to Brunnemer, and now a car runs wide off just in front of him. That was one of the BMWs in the machine, and Michael D'Alessandro, who's had a very tough go of it here so far, just past the halfway point. You see D'Alessandro back on the racetrack, but he's been off course a couple of times here today. But you're right, some obvious damage to Brunnemer's machine. Looked as though, in fact, Brunnemer gave him the chrome horn there as they came through turn 4, signaling he's got to go. He's probably looking at the same lap times that you are, Emerson. And D'Alessandro may be having this race starting to fall into his lap as we've got more cars on the pit lane. Here comes Michaela Ruderbusch, or Mikkel Ruderbusch, I should say, onto the pit lane in the Audi. And we'll see how long he keeps that car in the pits for service and where he will shuffle out once all is said and done.
I think I've got even more bad news for Chris Brunnemer as he was continuing to deal with more lap traffic. D'Alessandro ran a 30.5, even faster. As we go older, or as we gain age on these tires, D'Alessandro continues to run faster, and Brunnemer a 33.2. This is huge for Garrett D'Alessandro. Both of these drivers were in their own skid. D'Alessandro, of course, took a lot longer. He last won since round 2 on the season, still the point leader, but he hasn't won in quite a few weeks. So D'Alessandro, with about a third of the race to go, trying to get his 3rd win on the season, and the way he's ran this season, you wouldn't expect that the amount of points he has over 2nd, you wouldn't expect him to only have 2 wins, but D'Alessandro, as he's fallen back to 2nd. John Wittendorf has gone to the race lead.
Wow, so Wittendorf to the point over D'Alessandro. Let's go back and try to see how this took place. This is coming through the S's, approaching turn 10, a very high-speed, difficult part of the racetrack, and a huge mistake there at the exit of the S's. Somehow he saved the car, and Wittendorf was able to blitz his way by at turn 10, and now it's Wittendorf to the point.
That is a huge moment from D'Alessandro as he's in the catbird seat to try to win this race. And he just goes off in turn 9. He has to catch the car. I mean, what a great save from D'Alessandro. But I'm almost astounded to why he was trying so hard. I don't even know if he tried so hard and more than he just made a mistake. Maybe a mental lapse. We'll see here. That looks like more of a mental lapse. I think he just turned a little too much to the left and cut some grass there.
and left just enough room to drivers left in order for Wittendorf to get by. If he would have came back on the racetrack a little more abruptly, that might have been it for both of them. And you did see it slow them down. Lubenow, who is in third for the moment, was about 10 plus seconds back. That margin has shrunk now to just over 9 seconds. And one other point I wanted to raise here before we saw that pass for the lead, we're about 20 minutes to go in this race. Keep in mind that when the race leader in Chris Brunnemer came down to the line, as now we're starting to see some of the top two come to the pit lane, there's a 10-minute difference from when D'Alessandro was hitting the pits now back to when Brunnemer came out on track. And Emerson, as you've been highlighting, D'Alessandro has been significantly quicker each and every time. So that's 10 minutes of faster lap times that D'Alessandro was able to put together. It is not boding well for right now for Chris Brunnemer. We'll see if he's able to get back around D'Alessandro while he is stopping in his first pit stall by virtue of his pole for service.
What this race is quickly becoming is not a race between D'Alessandro and Brunnemer. It's becoming a race between D'Alessandro and Wittendorf. Wittendorf, with that mistake out of D'Alessandro, has elevated himself into a position that we shouldn't be slouching on Wittendorf, who has yet to win a race this season. He's definitely had the pace to. But Wittendorf is in prime position, and with less than 20 minutes to go, he's going to have the shortest amount of time on pit road by the time he does make a stop. And I think he would be leading at this point anyway. This is huge for John Wittendorf to potentially pick up his first win on the season.
And remember, we were talking about Wittendorf being the first driver of major significant importance at the front of the field to make the first mistake of the race after running up wide at the climb to turn number 2. And I'm surprised he has still found a way to stay out and yet to come to the pit lane. So not only is he turning very competitive and quick lap times, but he's also being able to manage the fuel load in order to pit as late as possible. You mentioned these drivers start with 65% worth of a fuel load in this 60-minute affair. And while his closest pursuers at the front of the pack have already come on the pit lane, Wittendorf's going to stay out for at least another lap. And he's got a huge lead over the rest of the pack because the car that was in second in Lubenow is now on the pit lane. He's going to pull James Hansen with him. They're nose to tail onto their respective pit stalls. And that's going to leave Wittendorf basically in a league of his own as far as drivers who have yet to come down for fuel.
Yeah, I am astounded by Wittendorf's pace and able to save this fuel. He's not only saving fuel, he's running at a fast pace. This is funny to me. Lubenow and Hansen have been battling all race long, and they just came to the pit lane nose to tail. It's just so ironic to me that this battle has not broken up yet. It's great, though. Lubenow and Hansen, it just kind of shows how much skill they have, that, you know, they've been able to run closely all day and not make too many mistakes to where they're still able to be competing for a high enough position and these cars be clean.
They may, in fact, end up competing for a podium. In fact, now we've got our first opportunity, if you look at the timing and scoring pylon, to see what some of that delta time is between D'Alessandro and Brunnemer. Right now, they've got, looks as though to be about a little more than 15 seconds between the two of them. Check that. It's actually a little bit less than that. It looks as though it's about 7 seconds back from D'Alessandro to Brunnemer as the times continue to update here as they trickle their way across this racetrack. And Wittendorf has 37 seconds in the bank at his disposal as he comes on the pit lane now. So was the advantage enough when you consider the delta time that it takes to slow down the pit speed, come down for service? He's obviously going to need a little bit less fuel than some of the competition with him pitting so late. And here comes Garrett D'alessandro. Can he overtake Wittendorf on the exit? Wittendorf's got the car rolling up the hill. This is going to be close.
The race on pit exit, but it looks like Wittendorf will stay out in front of D'Alessandro by about the length of turn 2. And John Wittendorf, he's got to keep the car on track for 16 and a half minutes, and that is easier said than done at Sonoma. That is a tall task at Sonoma. But John Wittendorf is now in prime position straight to the checkers. I mean, he is leading now by 2 seconds. Can D'Alessandro find the pace to close back up to Wittendorf? I have no idea. But Windorf has played this race phenomenally well and is now in prime position with 16 minutes left for some great things.
So Wittendorf out in front by 2 seconds over D'Alessandro. New second place driver in Ruderbusch, I should say third place driver in Ruderbusch, who would round out our podium. And the early leader in Brunnemer, who was the first car to hit pit lane at the halfway point. You see some potential damage there to the right front fender. Not exactly sure where that may have taken place, but we do believe it is playing a role in the performance of that car, as he's got Lubenow and Hansen all over the backside of Brunnemer entry for what's going to be a battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively. With that, Emerson, why don't we take this opportunity real quick to mention a couple of people who allow us the chance to be on these race broadcasts, including our friends at Tucson Sound Art. I mentioned a few nights ago that the holidays are right around the corner, starting to think of what you want to get your friends, family, and loved ones. Well, at Tucson Sound Art, if you provide them any image, could be of your race car, could be a wedding photo, a holiday family gathering photo, you name it, and they will take that image and create a custom, beautiful, high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. And with Sound Art, you can get the best of both worlds. So visit TucsonSoundArt.com for more information. And if you're looking to save a little bit of money on a gift that you may want to get a loved one for the holidays, use the promo code PitStopTV at checkout for 10% off your order. And again, that is TucsonSoundArt.com for more. We also want to thank Permanent Makeup in Maine. Now, when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. As you mentioned, holidays here, you're looking for a gift or a present for family, friends, or loved one, or if you just want to look your best when you're around your loved ones at this holiday season, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, the owner, Ashley Bullier, certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. You can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at the website permanentmakeupinmaine.com, or you can call or text them. We'll provide you the number momentarily. If you're looking for the best solutions to your permanent makeup concerns, that number is 207-358-8683, and you can give Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine a call today to book your consultation. They also have monthly giveaways on their Facebook page, so check them out again. Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, permanentmakeupinmaine.com. And lastly, of course, Whiplash Media, who's the parent company for Pit Stop TV, and they specialize in all forms of sim racing resources, whether it be paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, a lot of the elements that you see in our Pit Stop TV broadcasts, and so much more. Whiplash Media is also working on its presence in the world of real-life motorsports as well, offering services such as photography, social media management, and public relations. To learn more, go to whiplash-media.com. Happy to report we had boots on the ground at the 12 Hours of Sebring a couple days ago. We expect to have more of that type of content available to you. And again, that is the parent company of Pit Stop TV, whiplash-media.com. A lot of people to thank there, Emerson, for allowing us to put these races on as we close up on about 13 minutes to go in round 8 of 10 of the Northwest GT3 Challenge. And we've got ourselves an incredible race going on here for 10th spot with Gavin Cohn rounding out the top 10 for now.
Oh, for sure. This battle for 9th has been insane. We cut to this battle, and somebody's gone. I think that's Michael Dalling, who's gone around or half spun in turn 4, so we can get a replay of it. He's let Alan Roth go by now for that position. See what happens here as we work up the hill. Michael Dalling coming into turn 4, and I think that's just the story of turn 4. It is a rough corner. But anyway, was meaning to get these sponsor reads in earlier, and then I think the Brunnemer pit stop kind of really threw me for a whirl. But anyway, we have to thank of course the Northwest GT3 sponsors for allowing them to have us to bring you this great racing product, and for them to continue to do their thing week in and week out. So of course we have to thank 425 Motorsports, and at 425 Motorsports, we cater to specialize in automotive racing and driving equipment for all automotive enthusiasts. 425 also offers a full automotive shop for any car project you may have. 425 Motorsports is privileged to bring the Northwest some of the best equipment on the market. Make sure you check out 425 Motorsports at www.425motorsports.com. Next, we have Pgp Motorsports Park, which is a 22-acre go-kart racing venue with miles of asphalt road and panoramic mountain views, located in and next to Pacific Raceways in Kent, Washington. Make sure you check them out at pacificgp.com. Of course, we have Skull Sim Gear, button boxes, PC accessories for many games such as iRacing, Assetto Corsa, Elite Dangerous, Truck Simulator, and many, many more. For the sim racing or casual driver, make sure you go to skullsimgear.com. And of course, the Northwest GT3 Challenge broadcasts are brought to you by match donations of Laureus Sport for Good. Founded under the patronage of Nelson Mandela, Laureus Sport for Good uses sport as a powerful and cost-effective tool to help children and young people overcome violence, discrimination, and disadvantage in their lives. Over the past 2 decades, we have developed a global network of grantee partners and a worldwide charitable infrastructure. We have also developed a depth of understanding and corresponding credibility in our field and are recognized as a leading organization in the fast-growing sport for development community. Please help the Northwest GT3 Challenge support such an incredible cause by placing a donation today at the Laureus link that is going to be in our in our stream chats and in some of the social media posts that Trey Shuttlesworth is hard at work on. And you can find those social media posts at our Twitter and our Facebook page. And you can find us by searching Pit Stop TV. Be more in detail on how to get there later on. But of course, just recapping the crew today. It is a 3-man crew today. Andrew Cardinale IV, he's not able to run the show with us tonight, and that's okay. We got it handled. Of course, we have Eric Brennan on mic with me and Trey Shuttlesworth on the social media. And of course, I'm Emerson Arden. As we continue to wrap up here, the Northwest GT3 Challenge that John Wittendorf has really put a stranglehold on since that round of pit stops. 9 minutes remaining. John Wittendorf, 2.5 seconds his advantage.
That gap appears to be growing. This is the best race we have, or is it? We got trouble as Lubenow goes off into the tire barrier in turn 2, and Brady Lubenow was trying to get around Brunnemer, the early race leader for the 4th spot, and he overcooked the corner. Let's go back and take a look at it here. This is coming up the hill, and Brunnemer was going to go right down, take his preferred line, and looked as though that Lubenow just kind of missed turn 2. Flush impact with the left side of the car in the tire barrier. Lost 1 spot to Sarah Rabb, who's having a great run up into the top 5. But for Lubenow, a chance at trying to take 4th. They have cost him another top 5 on this season with the Northwest GT3 Challenge. And this race that he had going here, a solid effort he was putting together here at Sonoma. And looks as though, I'm watching the timing and scoring ticker, Wittendorf appears to have plummeted down the running order here. Let's try to see if that's just a glitch on our end.
Oh no, I'm not quite sure how to say this. I think he's lagged out of the session.
Oh my goodness. So the race leader in Wittendorf, let's see if it's able to catch up here in time. I'm keeping tabs on the official, the inside the chat here of the race with 7 minutes left to go. And Wittendorf, who appeared well on his way towards moving up towards the race win, may have just handed it over to the driver who led the field down to green, and Garrett D'alessandro, who's got a 3-second advantage over Ruderbush, who is now in 2nd spot.
I don't know what to say. That is tragic. Wow. I mean, John Wittendorf, man, he was so fast. He played this race beautifully, and honestly, John Wittendorf was very deserving of today's race win. Unfortunately, it looks like that is not going to be the case today. But I know it's not common in real racing, but it's the same thing as a mechanical failure. Unfortunately, it's just like letting the motor go, and that one's going to sting for John Wittendorf. Hopefully, he can come back even stronger next week at Nürburgring and do it there. But wow, you've got to really feel for John Wittendorf, having yet to win this season, but having the pace to win so many times this season, and we now work to the 8th race out of 10, and he will still not win a race in the Northwest GT3 Challenge just yet. Garrett D'alessandro now takes over the race lead by virtue of the loss of the car from John Wittendorf. With the same margin that Wittendorf had over D'alessandro is now what D'alessandro has over Ruderbusch. And Eric was mentioning as we were watching the replay of Brady Lubenow going off in turn 2, Sarah Rabb is having a phenomenal run today. Right now riding in the 4th position. This is huge for Sarah Rabb. I know she's had the pace to really contend in the top 10. I can't recall, and I could totally be wrong, I can't recall her being a big player into the top 5, but with 5.5 minutes left, right now sitting in 4th and trying to chase down Chris Brunnemer. Could a podium be in the cards for Sarah Rabb?
It was really taking notice of Sarah and her driving efforts in the practice session, and very vocal, communicating, to a lot of the drivers about where she indicated she wanted to go. And the lap times have been consistent. Keep in mind that Sarah Rabb came down for green in the 8th position, now running in 4th, and as you mentioned, closing on a driver who led the opening first few stages of this race until electing to come into the pit lane at the halfway point in Chris Brunnemer. That's going to be the best battle on the racetrack here for the time being. Ruderbusch was closing up on D'Alessandro 2 laps ago for the lead. That was a gap that was in excess of 3 seconds. It shrunk down to about 2.5 and is beginning to open back up as the quick time setter starts to extend his mark out at the head of the pack. But boy, Emerson, I am just absolutely gutted for the driver who was leading at the time that the word that they use is received throughput fell to an unacceptable level. First time I've ever seen that in my albeit brief iRacing broadcasting career, but an absolute heartbreaker. And you're exactly right. It's pretty much the equivalent to a mechanical failure. It does in fact happen, but it stings just as hard as any unexpected dropout would in a motorsports competition. And he did rejoin the session. Hopefully he could at least come down to complete this race. But we are watching Trevor Anderson, the winner from last week, who just has not had the same speed that he displayed some 7 days ago, doing all that he can to get around a driver who's up in the top 5 in points coming into tonight's race, and Gavin Cohn. They run 9th and 10th respectively through one of the most troublesome spots, turn 4, where a number of cars have stepped out from underneath these drivers throughout the night. These two keep it straight, and they'll see how the rest of the top 10 will shake out in the latter stages. And there you see John Wittendorf. He has rejoined the race, mired back in 20th spot after leading 9 laps in this contest. And in that 20th position, believe it or not, he's only 1 lap down, so that bit of an issue didn't cost him all that much time on the service, but it was enough to take away his front-running position, and he will come back to try to close out the final 3+ minutes of this race after what could have been a truly spectacular victory. Here's the race for 3rd up to turn 2. The best that we've got going on track here as Sarah Rabb tries to close up on Brunnemer.
Yeah, we have about, I'd say, 2 or 3 laps left in this race, and Sarah Rabb is now piling on the pressure as Brunnemer going wide there in 3A, but I think so did Sarah Rabb, so both of them equal in that regard. But it looks like Brunnemer is really pushing that car a lot harder than it can really go. I know it's damaged, but Brunnemer is really taking the extent of those tires to what they can. I know they're endurance race tires, and I know that it's not going to have a problem running hard for 1 hour, but he is really wearing out those tires. That the quality of those tires could come into play with these final 2 minutes. I doubt it, but it's definitely a factor. And Sarah Rabb doing what she can, trying to snag a podium on here race number 8 on the season. 2 minutes remaining. I think we're coming around to 2 laps to go for these drivers in this battle for 3rd, and this will continue on through to the checkers, continuing to close the gap now, lining him up for turn 11. Not close enough to make a move yet, but pressures. Can she get to Brunnemer? Trying to. I wouldn't assume contact, but enough to pressure Brunnemer into a mistake. And I mean, she is there, all but the gap that is probably gonna make Brunnemer make another mistake. We'll see what happens if they work nose to tail up the hill through turn 2. Sarah Rabb trying her heart out to get a podium today at Sonoma.
This battle for third going on about 12 seconds behind the leaders, but don't look now. Mikkel Ruderbusch has closed the gap down to under 2 seconds at the part of the racetrack where D'Alessandro has struggled mightily through the carousel, and there's lap traffic ahead. It's down to 1.5 seconds just about here as they come to turn 7. The BMW is able to yield and give way. Now could Ruderbusch get through just as cleanly? 2 more cars up ahead as they come through the S's, and the white flag will be waiting at the starter stand. This race may not be over. It may take another mistake by D'Alessandro or the part of the racetrack where he struggled all day long through the mid-sector, or perhaps lap traffic will play a factor. Looks like we're going to have a battle for the win on our hands and a battle for third as we come down to close out round 8 of the Northwest GT3 Challenge. Here they come to 1 lap to go.
One last lap here at Sonoma. D'Alessandro comes through turn 12 and he'll see the white flag here at Sonoma. 1 lap to go, and of course D'Alessandro, he's got to keep the car on track. As I said, that is a tall task in itself. D'Alessandro trying to fend off a hard charging Mikkel Ruderbusch. And D'Alessandro, could this be the nerves getting to the nerves getting to him? Because he hasn't won in quite a few races. He knows he's at the pace to finish up front, but to claim that top spot, it's been a few weeks since he's done so. He's got about half a lap to go now, but he works his way to the carousel with a 1.4 second advantage.
This is the part of the racetrack where he struggled a little bit so far throughout the day. We'll see if he's able to get through here cleanly. Comes off at turn 6 for what we believe to be the final time in this race, with the white flag now clearly waving, but there is still lap traffic ahead at 7. This is where he caught the BMW a lap ago and got through cleanly, and Ruderbusch has closed it down to 1 second. It's going to take one bobble. The driver who was fastest in qualifying with 2 cars ahead of him through the S's. The worst possible spot to catch lap traffic. Is Ruderbusch going to have a shot in the hairpin on the final lap?
He's closing the gap quickly into turn 10. Double wide, the lap cars ahead. 0.6 seconds to gap. It could be too little too late. Into the hairpin for the final time. Ruderbusch sends, but he can't get there. Garrett D'alessandro, can he get back to the gas? He's got to get around the number 15 there, but he's got, I'm sorry, number 18 of Justin Mikhaila, but to the start-finish line for the 3rd time this season, Garrett D'alessandro will win at Sonoma in the Northwest GT3 Challenge, and immediately pulls off the track. Mikkel Ruderbusch will come home in 2nd, and the battle for 3rd ends with Chris Brunnemer on top. Sarah Rabb will come home 4th, and Brady Lubenow ends up in the top 5.
What an absolutely incredible race. So much to unpack. So many storylines that have developed throughout the running of this event, as we have a few more cars still yet to come to the checkers in the top 10. You're watching Sven Hartman solidify what has been a very consistent day to the line in 7th spot. Also, you're seeing a driver who had an off-track excursion through the carousel, and Jackson Lowry coming through in 8th. Gavin Cohn trying to maintain his top 5 position in points in 9th, and Trevor Anderson in what was a difficult race that saw him in or around the 10th spot all throughout the day is going to round out the top 10 unofficially. A few more cars like Mick Blue yet to come to the checkers, but Garrett D'Alessandro may have started first, may have finished first, but that does not tell the whole tale of the tape as to how he got the job done. What an incredible effort in what may be his first step towards inching closer to a championship with 2 races left to go after today's event here in Sonoma.
And that being said, we're going to take a break here to get things set up for our post-race show. Don't you go away. We'll be talking to the race winner and the rest of the podium finishers here at Pit Stop TV. We'll be right back. Welcome, race fans, back to Pit Stop TV. We are now into post-race coverage of the Northwest GT3 Challenge here at the Sonoma Raceway. And wow, what a race it was. And we definitely have to get to talk to our race winner, Garrett D'alessandro. Garrett, how did you get this done? It looked like a tough race up at the front today.
Yeah, it was very eventful. The other guys were really quick. I guess Chris ran into an incident sometime after he pitted, because when I came back out, he was like 12 seconds behind. But they John and Chris and Michael, they all had a pretty good pace, especially in the downhill left-hander. That one was giving me some trouble.
All right, so we saw Brunnemer come in and pit at halfway. What was the reason you either didn't react to him pitting, or you were just set on your strategy to run it as long as you could?
Yeah, I was basically set on my strategy to run it as long as I could. I mean, if there was traffic there right in front of him and that was what made him pit, then I probably would have pitted then. But I mean, there was only like one guy 6 seconds ahead traffic-wise, so I decided to stay out.
So when Brunnemer pitted, it looked like it was just between you and Brunnemer. But as soon as that happened, John Wittendorf started to turn up the wick. I know he obviously wasn't able to see the race through to the end in one go. But what could you tell from your vantage point that maybe Wittendorf had on you, or what was Wittendorf's advantage on you, if you could tell?
He definitely had the run on me. Out of that left-hander I'm talking about. I wish I knew the exact name of it, but that sweeping downhill left-hander, I just couldn't get that right in the Audi. I mean, I know Michael was faster than me in it as well, so it definitely isn't just an Audi thing. It's just something I was doing wrong. I'm going to check the data out after this. But, yeah, that's basically where they were getting runs on me, because the braking zone after that is a pretty good place to overtake, so I kept having to take a defensive line, which slowed me down a good bit. And then I had that unfortunate off towards the back of the track, and yeah, that was scary.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, you did get the win here at Sonoma. It's your third win on the season. Were you a little worried you weren't going to get another win this season after it being so long since your second?
Yeah, I knew these middle tracks were going to be hard in the Audi, like Monza, the past couple of tracks we did in the middle of the season. But, yeah, honestly, part of it's the point system right now. It doesn't really incentivize me to push, really. That's not to say that these other guys, like, I'm not showing true pace or holding back or anything, but I'm just not taking risky overtakes or anything like that.
Right on. Well, a couple more questions. With this win today, you're just building on your points lead, heading into the Nürburgring. How are you feeling about that track? I'd say they're pretty similar, Sonoma and Van Nürburgring, but what's your take and what are you expecting out of next week to wrap this season up in the penultimate round?
I feel like the BOP should be pretty balanced there. I think they've got a couple longer straights, so that should give the BMWs and Mercs a little bit of a boost compared to Sonoma. And there's also some, it's a little bit wider in places, so I think there should be some better racing. I really enjoy that track.
All right, fair enough. Well, congratulations on your win. Who do you have to thank for your amazing third win on the season here at Sonoma?
I'd like to thank my team, FDR Esports, my girlfriend for watching and supporting, and a big shout out to all the sponsors of this series for endorsing and helping out and whatnot. And thank you to you guys for broadcasting as well.
Of course. Well, nonetheless, congratulations again on your third win on the season. And, best of luck to you next week at the Nürburgring.
Thank you.
Right on. And we had Mikhail Ruderbusch lined up for an interview. We seem to have lost him, so I guess we'll move on down the order, and we'll have our Eric Brennan. Oh, no, Ruderbusch is back. Never mind. Oh, my apologies, but we'll have Eric Brennan standing by with second-place finisher Mikhail Ruderbusch.
Thanks a lot, Emerson. It's a pleasure now to welcome into our interview room here Mikhail Ruderbusch, who put on a show there in the latter stages. And Mikhail, first of all, congratulations on the second-place finish here on what is a very tough racetrack. But man, it was a crazy race. We had a little bit of everything take place, and right at the very end, you were closing up on there, and we were all pretty much standing up at the end of that one. How good does it feel that at this point in the season to have things starting to come together that strongly and that solidly for this latter portion? And are you satisfied with a second-place finish, albeit you were within striking distance of the win there in that last lap?
Yeah, I mean, it's my second podium of the season, but they don't come easy. Probably the first one that didn't involve some incident in front of me that I know of, at least. So yeah, it feels pretty good. I was chasing Garrett there for a bit. It seemed we had a similar pace, and I was kind of content just to keep up with that pace, just in case something happened. But then the last few laps there, I saw the lap cars kind of come into view, and was kind of wondering if they were going to get in the way. It seems like they definitely made the race a little tighter there at the end, and yeah, going to that last hairpin, I was I was a little on edge too. I got pushed a little hard too coming out of the corner, but I don't think it would have mattered anyways. But yeah, it was a fantastic race, and happy with the P2.
Well, we'll give credit where credit is due. With about 3 laps to go, the lead was nearly 3 seconds, got it down to about 2.5. When you guys took the white flag, it was just over a second. Final margin of victory, 0.8 of a second, but I don't think that tells the whole story of that last lap. Now, D'Alessandro admitted he was struggling a good bit through the sweeping left-hander at the carousel at turn 6. Was that something you were able to recognize? And did you think you had to be within a certain range of his back bumper to have a shot at that sector of the racetrack to get the job done? Or you were just full bore all the way throughout that last lap?
Well, for most of the race, I was hanging behind John, Chris, and Garrett, and saw Garrett and Chris kind of battle there, maybe like 20 minutes in or so. And it seems like Garrett was a little slow going through that right-hander after the carousel. It seemed like I gained some time on him there each lap or so. So once I saw the lap cars come into play, I was wondering if they were going to slow him down even more and see if I could run coming out of that corner. It seems like the cars were a little bit ahead where it probably didn't make too much of a difference. But yeah, that last lap, I was just kind of full bore, didn't know what was going to happen. And, it wasn't enough to pay off, but still super happy with the result.
Now, pit strategy was something that caught us all off guard. I was surprised at how big the range was as far as when drivers elected to pit. I think we're talking about a 14-minute swing from when I think the first car that came to pit road was Chris Brunnemer at about the halfway point. The last car that we saw was Wittendorf, who pitted with about 17 minutes to go, it seemed, before he dropped out of the service. What determined your pit strategy? Is that something that you're calculating as the race goes on, or is that all predetermined when you go in? You have a game game plan that is set and just ready to be deployed once the green flag drops?
No, it's definitely situation dependent, and you kind of have to see what's going on in the race, at least for me, to kind of get an idea of when you want to pit. I have a fuel calculator, and it can tell me when I can pit. That can get me to the end of the race, so I know when my pit window opens. And then, kind of based on that, if I have some guys in front of me that I'm a little quicker than, and I can't seem to pass, I might try to go for the undercut. If there's some lap cars that are coming up, which is kind of the case today, then I might pit a little earlier. Other than that, if I have clean air, I'm just going to stretch it as long as possible, essentially because it's kind of hard to know where you're going to fall in line. And a lot of guys in the middle and towards the rear of the pack seem to just kind of stretch the fuel as far as they can. So it's definitely a gamble. And, today it seemed to pay off. I didn't really get stuck in any traffic once I came out of the pit. And I seemed to avoid some of the traffic coming towards the leaders there towards the end of my pit window. So yeah, it's all situation dependent, and some days it pays off and some days it doesn't. But it seemed to go pretty well today.
The cards seem to fall incredibly well, knocking on the door of victory at the checkered flag. 2 races left to go in this sector of the Northwest GT3 Challenge season. What's your level of confidence like heading into the Nürburgring next week? And I'd say as a whole, with just 2 races left to go.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in striking distance of getting top 3 here in the championship standings, unless something catastrophic happens. Since I missed a race towards the beginning of the season, but now with 2 podiums on the year, feel pretty confident. And Nürburgring, and especially these older, some of my more strong tracks, Nürburgring, I feel like is a very popular track, so might not have too much of an advantage there. But yeah, just going to try to fight for podiums every year. Or every race rather, and see what we can get out of the remainder of the season.
And before we let you go, just, being that you got such a strong finish to celebrate here before we sign off with the runner-up finish at the stripe, I want to give you an opportunity to thank anybody who may be able to make this possible for you to come out and race on these Monday night events that they put on for you.
Yeah, first off, just like to thank the whole Northwest GT3 community. It's been a fantastic season. I've had great fun racing with them throughout the weekend on Monday nights. I want to thank my girlfriend. She's been super supportive and always asks me how the race goes after Monday. So happy to tell her I got P2 today. And yeah, I'd like to thank Genesee Beer as well, because I'm gonna go crack one of those right about now.
We may be joining you on that one. Congratulations on the second place finish, my friend. Hopefully you can close out the season strong. Best of luck next week. And again, that is Mikkel Ruderbusch, who celebrates a second place finish. And the driver who rounded out our podium was standing by. We'll see if we'll be able to get him back in here after he led a good portion of the race. And Emerson will be on the ready to be able to talk with the driver who finished in third, if he is in fact still available on what was a wild go-around for this, the 8th race of 2020, with 2 races still to go in the Northwest GT3 Challenge.
Well, he is available, and we are standing by with third place finisher Chris Brunnemer. And Chris, I know you finished third, and I know that's not where you wanted to finish, but an eventful day for what it's worth. What does this third place finish mean to you after a day like today?
Yeah, it was a lot of grinding and some luck went my way. I feel terrible for John with the disconnect there, but I kind of shot myself in the foot, didn't put the right fuel in. So when I came out of my pits, I had to take way more fuel, and that just killed my tires. It didn't help that I slammed the wall coming into the pits either. So kind of self-destructive there, but it was a good overall grind back to the third place.
I was just about to ask. We noticed damage on your car. We couldn't deduct where it came from. Was it indeed that pit entry damage?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a little bit of right front damage from clipping the tires on the last hairpin, but that was minor. I got that in lap 9. But yeah, I slammed the wall coming into the pits. I braked at my normal marker. I don't know why the thing just didn't stop. So yeah, it was a bummer. That kind of killed the left front.
So I could ask you about your individual battles today, but you had a lot of them. So I'll throw out the names, but I'll ask you more in general. Of course, when you were up front battling with D'Alessandro and Ruderbusch and Windorf up there, that was one thing. Of course, you're all going for the lead, but then when you come off the pit lane and your car's damaged and you're mired back in traffic with Lubenow and Hansen, and then towards the end with Sarah Rabb, how was it just seeking so many different drivers today in your battles and still able to muster up a third place finish with the variety of drivers you have to go through for it.
Yeah, wasn't that kind of wild? Yeah, at the beginning of the race, it was, okay, I screwed up my fuel. I need to get out front and push and build a lead so that, I can come out of the pits and still have, at least be somewhat close. And Garrett was really tough, but that car, it wanted to kill on every corner. So props to him for keeping it together. But yeah, then when I pitted and had to put a full tank of fuel in, the car was just ungodly loose. So it was kind of a handful to keep going around the track. So, yeah, it was unfortunate Brady kind of got caught off by how early I was having to lift because it was just so loose on entry. So that kind of sucked for him.
Right, and then at the end, you were being chased down from Sarah Rabb. How much pressure, if any, was she giving you for that podium position?
Yeah, I was just kind of focused on hitting my marks and just making sure I didn't miss any marks so I didn't get, hit from behind just because, I was kind of so slow on entry, and she was really aggressive under braking. So, yeah, it was pretty eventful there towards the end. Got really tight.
So my personal analysis, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I would kind of assess Sonoma and the Nürburgring as very similar courses, I guess, in terms of cornering. I know there's more straightaways at the Nürburgring course that we're hitting up next week, but can you take, the speed and the opportunity you had from Sonoma today and kind of translate that into a similar run and maybe a better run next week at the Nürburgring?
Yeah, next week's going to be a blast. Nürburgring GP, not to be confused with the neighboring crap course, is the GP track's great. It'll be great racing, good opportunity to pass into turn 1, and then into like turn 8 or 9, the hairpin at the other end of the track. So the GP course is a fantastic track, so I'm really excited for it.
Fair enough. Well, who do you have to thank for your third place finish today? I know it was it was a tough one, but yeah, who do you have to thank for it?
Yeah, I have to thank Brady and Sarah for not ramming into me when I was so slow on corner entry. They really helped me out.
Well, fair enough. Congratulations on another podium here in the Northwest GT3 Challenge, and best of luck to you next week at the Nürburgring Grand Prix course.
Thanks, guys.
And that was third place finisher, driver of the number 2 Ferrari 488 GT3, Chris Brunnemer. And Eric, what a race it was today. I mean, absolutely insane. Battles up and down the top 10, top 15, top 20. Battles up and down the running order, I should say. And then key driver mistakes that lit up the scoring pylon with opportunity across the entire running order. What are your takeaways from today?
I will tell you, I've been in the game of being able to participate in iRacing related broadcasts for a little less than a year now. And, there are times where you think you've seen it all and you see certain things or you expect certain things. And I think you and I both deserve a pat on the back. We highlighted turn 4 may be an area of concern. That was probably one of the biggest trouble spots all throughout the day, or they at least set up some of the biggest moments that we've had throughout the night. But I am going to bed tonight thinking about Mr. Wittendorf, who had this race in hand and dropped out of the system, or dropped out of the service for only about a lap and a half. First time I've seen that happen to a driver who appeared to perfect the strategy, had the speed, had all the ingredients in place with less than 10 minutes to go, and perhaps his first victory of the season in hand, and just to have it come undone, by a set of circumstances that was out of their control. But as they say, that's racing, and that's what opened up the opportunity for D'Alessandro, the point leader, to be able to grab another win on the season and what may be his next step towards a championship. And it came down to a nail-biter. You and I think we're both on the edge of our seats as we were watching those cars come to the line. And this series, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew that the caliber of driver was up there. I knew that the track was going to be rather difficult, and it delivered in a huge way. And I had a blast, man.
That is for sure. It did deliver. And that being said, let's see how the results ended up today. And of course, here's your first page. Garrett D'Alessandro with the victory here at Sonoma, leading 25 of the 40 laps ran today. Again, a margin of 0.8 of a second from Georgia with the fastest lap of 129.8 1.37 for Garrett D'Alessandro. Behind him, it was Mikael Ruderbusch making the late charge. Chris Brunnemer, of course, with the speed early and the mistakes, and still somehow ending up with a third-place finish after having to fend off a hard-charging Sarah Rabb, who ends up finishing fourth. Brady Lubenow making a mistake trying to find a way around Chris Brunnemer, who will end up fifth. James Hansen fell back off of that battle. He ends up sixth. Sven Hartman was in a heartfelt battle all day with all of those BMWs back there. He ends up top of that battle for seventh over Jackson Lowry after having to recover from hitting the tire barrier there in P8. Gavin Cohn ends up P9, and last week's race winner Trevor Anderson comes out with a top 10.
Now we move on to some drivers who were not as fortunate, but a couple of drivers who kept their nose clean, like that of Alan Roth, who, as Emerson was mentioning earlier in the broadcast tonight, brought the fan club with him and was able to keep himself out of trouble. Just missed out on a top 10 spot. He finished 11th. Michael Darling was 12th. James Allen, who had a spin, one of the drivers who suffered some misfortune in turn 4, comes home 13th. Mick Blue also had a semi-spin in turn 4 tonight, still comes home in 14th. And also in the 15th spot, Justin McKayla takes you through your top 15. Christopher Raftis, a driver whose name we did not talk about much throughout the night, able to stay out of trouble for the most part. First car, 1 lap down in 16th spot, and Tom Athey in 17th. 18th was the car of Ben Osterhog. 19th, the heartbreaker of the night in John Wittendorf, after leading a number of laps in this race before falling out of the service with less than 10 minutes to go. Last car, 1 lap down, and then you get down to 20th spot where Randall Ayers was 2 laps down, again running out the 20th place finish.
We come back to the final 6 drivers on the grid, and it was a struggle bus back here for sure. Josh Jabirik, one of the drivers who was actually able to finish back here in the 21st position, and at 6:12 will finish 2 laps down. Behind him, Jason Frisk had a rough day, 19 laps down for him. Michael Della Sala also found himself off the track a few times. He'll finish 23rd, also 19 laps down. John McClintock, 24th. Torrin Longacre, 25th. Joey Atterbury, 26th, all several laps. Actually, Atterbury never took the green, so really 25 drivers in the race tonight. 25 drivers started. And Torrin Longacre only ran 1 lap. It was rough, but it is a difficult track for sure. So to each their own. These drivers had a lot to deal with, and that being said, we have some sponsors to thank once again. Of course, have to thank 425 Motorsports for helping out the Northwest GT3 Challenge, and of course 425 Motorsports caters and specializes in automotive racing and driving equipment for all automotive enthusiasts. 425 offers a full automotive shop for any car project you may have. 425 Motorsports is privileged to bring to the Northwest some of the best equipment on the market. Make sure you check them out at www.425motorsports.com. Pgp Motorsports Park is a 22-acre go-kart racing venue with miles of asphalt road and panoramic mountain views. Located in and next to the Pacific Raceways in Kent, Washington. Check them out at pacificgp.com. Of course, Skull Sim Gear with button boxes, PC accessories for many games such as iRacing, Assetto Corsa, Elite Dangerous, Truck Simulator, and many, many more. For the sim racing or casual driver, check them out at skullsimgear.com. And of course, the Northwest GT3 Challenge broadcasts are brought to you by matched donations to Laureus Sport for Good, which is founded under the patronage of Nelson Mandela. Laureus Sport for Good uses sport as a powerful and cost-effective tool to help children and young people overcome violence, discrimination, and disadvantage in their lives. And over the past 2 decades, they have developed a global network of grantee partners and a worldwide charitable infrastructure. They have also developed a depth of understanding and corresponding credibility in their field, and are recognized as a leading organization in a fast-growing sport for development community. Please help the Northwest GT3 Challenge support such an incredible cause by placing a donation today at the link on some of our social media postings today and in the YouTube stream chat. And that being said, Eric, you got some Pit Stop TV sponsors for us?
Absolutely. All of us wouldn't have the opportunity to come out and showcase some of these races and drivers without the help of these people. And we will start at the top of the batting order with Sound Art of Tucson. I don't know about you, but we've already got the Christmas lights strung up at the Brennan household, and we are in the full-blown holiday and gifting spirit, and this is a spectacular idea for any friend or loved one, or even if you just want to buy something for yourself, as we all occasionally do at this time of the year. Here's the deal. If you provide any image that you want, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's of you, your friends, your family, your most prized possessions, i.e. race car, you send it over to our friends at Tucson Sound Art, and they will create a beautifully framed, high-quality canvas, and it has a built-in Bluetooth speaker, so you can hang that photo anywhere in your house, and you suddenly have the ability to play music or any other type of audio you would like from a Bluetooth-capable device. So with Sound Art, you truly get the best of both worlds. Here's the best part. Since partnering up with Pit Stop TV, they are offering 10% off if you use the promo code PitStopTV at checkout. The website to get that is TucsonSoundArt.com. Again, that is Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. We also want to thank the people at Permanent Makeup in Maine, because when it comes to your appearance, you truly do deserve the best that money can buy. At Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine, the owner, Ashley Bullier, has been a longtime supporter of Pit Stop TV, is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. I've got a couple of weddings I have to go to in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to pitch them to all take a look at this, because everybody knows they want to look their best on their best day, and every day should truly be your best day. Well, you can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at their website, permanentmakeupinmaine.com, or you can call, or my preferred method of contact, text them. I'll give you a chance to grab a pen and paper at 207-358-8683. If you're looking for the best solutions for your permanent makeup concerns, give Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine a call today and book your consultation. If you visit their Facebook page, they also have monthly giveaways available. The Facebook drop that you want to go to is Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. You can enter one of those monthly giveaways, and who knows, you just might be able to walk away a winner. Again, permanentmakeupinmaine.com for more. And lastly, of course, Whiplash Media. Now, this is in fact the parent company of Pit Stop TV's organization, and one of the main reasons behind our broadcasts that take place all throughout the week. And of course, Whiplash Media specializes in various forms of sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, and so much more, a lot of which you saw tonight as part of our coverage of the Northwest GT3 Challenge. Whiplash Media is also working on its presence in real racing. If you want to see some of the information that was compiled at the 12 Hours of Sebring, that'll be up on the website in the not-too-distant future. If it's not done already, I got to head over there once we sign off here tonight. But they're also offering additional services in the real-world realm of motorsports, such as photography, social media management, as well as public relations. To learn more or to partner up with Whiplash Media, go to whiplash-media.com.
And that concludes our coverage tonight of the Northwest GT3 Challenge at Sonoma. We at Pit Stop TV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Join Pit Stop TV as we open up the next season of the Bluegrass iRacing Series this Wednesday at Daytona. And of course, we also have next Sunday night the Superior Class Auto Racing Cup Series at Auto Club Speedway. Next Monday night, the BRP iRacing Series, race number 5 at Williams Grove. And of course, also Monday nights, we continue that doubleheader every Monday night with the Northwest GT3 Challenge back at it again next week at the Nürburgring Grand Prix course. And of course, the following Wednesday with the Bluegrass iRacing Series at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That being said, make sure you follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_tv/, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/pitstoptv1. And this has been Eric Brennan. With me on mic tonight, Trey Showsworth on social media coverage, and I'm Emerson Arden. And for all of us at Pit.TV, thanks for watching. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.